Well, what do we have here? We have a motor that I have actually ran in a demolition derby 3 years ago, and I kind of think this is the one I took down to Mini Meltdown. I can't really remember where it's from, but I ended up taking it across the street to my neighbor's house, and what he did is we machined 30 thou off the head. Then I put a carburetor on it, and then I put a Chevy distributor, and I had this thing running. Not great, but very well running enough just to proof of concept. Now, other people out there have made this a lot better than I, and honestly, I don't know enough about carburetors to actually really be able to tune this thing in. I was born in 1988. Carburetors were pretty much done in 1990. The first truck I actually ever drove on the road was carbureted. It was a Mazda B2200, but it had like 32 vacuum lines, and it was a piece of junk when it came to the carburetor. Anyway, I like fuel injected. I really do. I find it very reliable. I find that the vehicles are not turning off because of fuel injection now. With the Camrys, I find that they are either heat seizing. Yes, you could probably get away with that with the carburetor and do something crazy to it, but I think for Camrys, fuel injecting, 99.5% of the cars are doing fantastic. And it's not the motors that's letting us down. It's either transmission, axles, struts, the back of the car, you're getting bellied out. Yes, sometimes they do mess up and they do not run right. I'm starting to see a little bit more Camrys here and there having issues when it comes to not running right. But we are pushing these motors farther than anybody's ever pushed them before. These 5 SFEs are not designed to do what we're doing. These are commuter engines that are supposed to be like easy on fuel and very reliable, and we are blowing these things up being idiots with them. But saying that, I want to see how far I can push this one here with the shaved head. So we're going to probably be taking the carburetor intake off, cleaning out all the silicone over my intake ports, which is going to suck, but it's possible. We are going to be putting the fuel injection back on. We are going to be taking off this blown up transmission, putting this good transmission on. I know this one's good, that's why it's spray painted green. And we are going to be putting it into a car. And what car are we going to be putting it into? Some of the most memorable cars I have built have been the Soleras. And as you guys can see, I'm getting a half-decent stockpile of the Soleras. You guys remember Nukem? That was a Solera. You remember Infected? That was a Solera. The Illuminati, which is over there, is actually a Camry. But the Soleras are the cars that you guys really like. So I have a car for you. Let's go take a look at this Solera. We got to come up with a name for it, though, because this one here is going to be kind of do a little bit of work to it now and then put it away. But anyway, we need to come up with a name for it. This is a V6 Solera with a manual, but I've stolen so many parts out of it. It's, I wouldn't even call it, like, it's not even manual anymore because I stole all the master out of it, and like all that's been missing, and a big chunk of the firewall's been cut out because I needed that for the 2JZ car. But anyway, we have this Solera sitting here, and I would like to put a 4-cylinder into it. I can't open the hood right now just because of how it's sitting unless it's popped. Nah, it's not popped. But we need to come up with a name. Maybe Silver Bullet. I know that's a pretty cool name. It does have some bullet holes in it. Just look like pellets or something. I bought it off a guy who lost the key. He did all brand new brakes to it and then lost the key. So, good job, my friend. But it made me get it at a good deal. So, the first thing we need to do is I need to go get my wife and wake her up, even though it's like, I think it's like 12 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock in the afternoon. I need to wake her up so I can help get this car in the shop. We have an Equinox right here that's 4-wheel drive that we're just going to use to push and pull this. And I'm going to strip some of it and throw it into some cars just because I need to fill those cars up to go for scrap. But let's get this thing into the shop, and you guys start thinking of some names and start leaving them down in the comments so we can come up with a name for this. Well, thanks to my loving wife and our new pusher vehicle, which is what used to be a 4-wheel drive Equinox, we got this thing pushed in here. And I already started. I took out the grill and some random little bolts, but it's kind of hard to drive and stop this thing when it's got no steering column and no brake pedal in it. But we got it in here, and what I'm going to do is just quickly take a lot of stuff off of it. that is going to end up inside this Honda and on its way to scrap. So we're just going to probably take the front bumper, the headlights, this piece here underneath the hood, a lot of the interior, the trunk terrier. You call it a trunk terrier? Ford's trying to get away with calling their new electric trunks, saying they have a frunk. I would never buy an electric truck. Maybe in like 30 years when there's no other options. But yeah, so we'll pull out all of this and get this thing kind of stripped so it's a little bit better. And then we'll see what kind of state we're at here. Well, we're going to start working on this today. Don't have a whole lot of time today. This is going to sound ridiculous. I have about 2 hours. So in that 2 hours, my goal is hood off, struts out, axles out, motor out on the ground. So that is my goal. If I'm going to get there, I don't know. Let's get going. I don't have a whole lot of time today, so I really want to try to get a whole lot done on this car. So there's pretty much nothing on the front of this thing that I'm going to keep. The control arms I want to change out. And the reason I want to change the control arms is Solara control arms are a little bit different than Camry control arms. Camrys are like a cast, really heavy duty piece of steel, and I think they're a lot stronger. Solara control arms are 2 pieces of sheet metal that are welded together. Now, I used to say I've never seen anybody bend a Camry factory control arm until my buddy Quinn did it, and then I seen somebody bend it. So you can bend factory Camry control arms, but it's kind of rare. And then some of you guys are going to say, well, you can bend Solara. So bending Solara arms is kind of rare. I will agree to that. It is kind of rare that you bend Solara arms. But I've actually bent Solara arms. Infected had bent lower control arms. So what my goal is to get this thing torn down, rebuilt to a part where right now I don't want to run any more V6s. I don't want to run any more V6s because the bad experiences I've had actually running V6s. Now that's just my opinion. Some people really like the V6s, and if you like them, stick with them. But I've not had good luck. So my plan is to basically get the V6 out, get a 4 in there, get it running and driving. That one's done there good, that's for sure. And then pretty much store it for the rest of the winter. Because as a V6 car that doesn't run, not because of motor, but because of security, this car is pretty much useless to me right now. I know you guys are going to say, well, they have security deletes for these cars now. And you know what, they do. But I just have not had enough luck with these V6s to run them. Fool me once, shame on you, but this fool me twice, shame on me, but you know, it's done me 3 times now. I've ran 4 V6s in my lifetime. I've actually done the math. And out of those 4 V6s, 1 caught fire, 1 Avalon blew up, my Lexus blew up, and then I just had that old body blow up and heat seize on me, which cost me a first place derby. I was a looped V6 and a 4-cylinder with no radiator, no loop kit, nothing. Ended up outlasting a looped V6, and that was enough for me. So what we're doing is we're taking out the V6 spindles and axles, and they're pretty much garbage. That's the V6 spindle out. Now, the V6 axle passenger side's always horrible to do. I don't really keep them, I just cut them, and that's because I don't ever plan to reuse them. But this one here, I might do a little bit differently. I might try to save it. Nah, I'm just going to cut it. Well, I did try to remove it, but I gave up. I just cut it with a mini grinder. We got all the oil draining out of it. We got the manual transmission fluid drained out of it. Because this motor is actually going to probably end up in the upside down in the back of an Equinox. So I just want to kind of make it so there's least amount of mess as possible. Plus, I actually use this stuff to help heat my garage over the winter. But I ran out of time. I had some buddies come over. What we got done tonight is we got passenger side spindles, axles, steering, everything off. We will be pulling these control arms off, and I will show you guys the difference why we're doing that probably in tomorrow's videos. Oh, that hoist is not on there very well. Maybe I need to come down and put the car actually on the hoist. And then we did the same thing over here. We got out the spindle, axle, all the fender plastic. These tie rods are not really looking the best. I guess you guys can't see in here because it's dark. But they're looking a little rusty. But that's where we're going to end it today. But I'll be back out here tomorrow night doing more. So make sure you guys come back. We're just draining the oil out. We'll probably still be in the same video. So I'll see you guys here tomorrow. So I did a little bit of work, and I pretty much just cut everything that was in my way. Undid the motor mount, back motor mounts are off, underside motor mounts are off. I got the engine crane hooked up with seat belts, because you guys know how much I love seat belts. Got the wiring cut, got the airbox off, throttle cable off, brake booster off. I honestly think we have just about everything. The only thing that's going to screw me now is the manual shift cables, so I'm going to cut those very shortly. The manual clutch pedal, which I'm going to probably cut very shortly, and the power steering line. So we're just going to probably go in there with the mini grinder here very quickly and just do a little bit of trimming, and then this thing here will be ready to lift out. We're going to lift it with the hoist, jack up with that, and then just come down with the hoist, and hopefully the motor just comes right up and out, and that's what I'd really like to do, to be honest. Alright, let's let the sketchiness begin. My engine crane that's 15 years old and half the bolts are missing. Okay, come on down on the hoist. Come on, seatbelts, do your job. Oh, she's coming up! Oh, what's she hitting? Oh, I think that's the power steering line that's screwing us now, boys. This is going pretty good, though. We hitting this? Yeah, I think we're hitting that. No. I honestly think that's just the power steering line bugging herself. Let's get the Sawzall and cut that. That's not bad. I forgot a ground, a positive, and I knew the power steering line had to be cut, but I did forget about the feed line to the pump. There's the axle I cut. Motor mounts. You know what? It was probably a fantastic motor, but it's going to go in the trash now because I have absolutely zero use for this thing. Don't need to blow up any more V6s. Look at the mess! What a mess. What a mess. Well, with the engine out now and gone in the Equinox, this is going to leave this thing a lot of space to kind of get built. We're going to do a lot of cleaning up here underneath the hood. We're going to get rid of the brake lines. We're going to get rid of the clutch lines. We're going to basically delete all the brake lines. But we need to start planning ahead. So my plan is to get rid of the Solera lower control arms, put Camry lower control arms, get rid of the high pressure steering line, put a low pressure on it, get rid of all the brake lines, get rid of the air conditioning, get rid of the heater core, get rid of all the wiring, headlights, radiators. Pretty much just clean up this engine bay to the point where it's workable. I do have to get a new brake pedal assembly because this is just loose, because I may have borrowed that, but that's actually probably going to work out to our advantage right now for doing the brake lines. I can take that out to clean up the engine bay that much better. But saying that, we have to make a decision. This motor here is the motor that I've switched to carbureted. Now I can't run this here in Ontario. I really can't. But what I can do is I can switch this back to injected. I didn't really put that much effort into it, and I haven't done anything to it. This motor here, I shaved 30,000 off the head, put a new head gasket in it, torqued it down. So I'd really like to hear this thing run. So that's option number one. But option number two is, let's just go check her out. I believe that we were calling this thing Old Faithful. But unfortunately, she was ran without the oil pan, so I'm a little nervous with it. But those are our two options for the motors. This one would be easier, but the other one might be funner. Leave a comment down below on what motor you guys think I should put inside this Solera. But a lot of building to do to it, so stay tuned, everybody. We're going to get it ready to the point where it's still going to have the glass in it. It's going to have a derby tank in it, but it's going to be pretty much built when the season starts. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you back here tomorrow on Zach's Workshop.